Where do I start? So, I'm a first year game art student, and 4 months ago I learned about something called an Arduino. It's this thing, looks really scary, looks like something I can use to hack into the mainframe, but apparently it's pretty cool. So we got this big assignment to create something with it, which could mean anything. And after weeks of brainstorming and considering the most stupid ideas,
literally a machine that doesn't jetpack.
I came up with something that I think is doable. A top-down arcade racing game machine. Hear me out. There are a lot of top-down racers, but you're still playing them while looking at it from a regular angle, which is just stupid. If you're gonna make a top-down race game, why not make it actually top-down? Probably because it hurts your neck, but whatever. I was also a huge fan of slot car racing as a kid, and I felt like there are way more cool things to do with this concept. So honestly, combining this, a slot car arcade racing game machine, let's go! First, I wanted to make something mainly physical. Make an actual awesome physical arcade racing game with sound, lights, combo moves, boost. But I don't even know how to screw two pieces of wood together yet, so that's pretty ambitious. Maybe another time. So I decided I'm just gonna lay down a screen. Make the world's first actual top-down arcade racing game. I don't actually think I'm the first, but whatever. So I brainstormed about different ways to control the thing. I wanted it to be really intense. All the top-down racing games I played against other people are just not that intense. It's usually just one guy who's really good and the others just don't have a chance. And I hate that. I want it to be exciting, so I want everyone to have a chance. Maybe you just suck. So instead of accelerating, braking, steering, I want something more simple. So how about pressing a button fast? Some of the simplest, most intense gameplay I experienced is mashing buttons in some of the stupid Wii Party minigames. This simple monkey brain competition about pressing a button quick, I'd love it. You'd say the loneliest guy usually wins, but you actually never know. I want it to be a little more interesting than just a single button. So I came up with the idea of 4 buttons with LEDs blinking in a random order, and you press the right button like you're playing whack-a-mole with buttons. And when you make the right combos, the boost button turns on and you go boost. It has to be a separate big ass button just so you can go boost. Cool. Now we have the ID. Now I have to learn how to use this thing. Followed some classes at school, made a light blink, made it go tattoo, tattoo, tattoo. Doing this for the first time is like bringing something to life. It's honestly amazing. Using proper resistors and doing the wiring correctly. It was really confusing at first, but I'm getting there. And I did some other stupid experiments and I was officially ready. Except I wasn't. So in order to make this thing, I had to connect a lot of buttons with LEDs, connect the Arduino to a game engine to read the input and make a sturdy wooden case so people can freely mash the buttons. With a screen in the middle. Oh right, and I have to make the actual game. And I still have 4 weeks left. Help. I googled around where I could find some buttons, so I have 4 players with 5 buttons each, which means I need 20 buttons. And I quickly discovered that shit gets expensive quick. So because I'm a student with debt, and it was already kind of ambitious, I'm making a 2-player prototype instead. So I was able to borrow an old 30-inch TV, but while holding it, I realized making a whole wooden case around this would be really hard, especially for me. I also need to carry it to school by hand, which would be a really big struggle. So I used an old 20-inch screen I found in my parents' attic instead. Also, size doesn't matter. And I was ready, except I wasn't. Before trying anything else, I wanted to connect a single button and see if I can use it in a game engine. I'm going to be using Unity, not sponsored. Why would anyone? I spent 2 days trying to get this to work, but the button was just not working until the teacher told me I just didn't put it in right. This is not a good start. Making this work with Unity was pretty confusing at first, but eventually I did it and I was thrilled. I was so happy and I wasn't even close yet. So I bought 10 proper buttons and it was time. Before making the wooden thing with the screen, I decided to make a cardboard prototype to see if the idea is any good and if I can get this to work at all. So I bought new shoes, threw them away so I could use the shoebox. The buttons arrived and I realized I cannot directly connect them like the starter kit buttons I had earlier. So what do I do now? Apparently, soldering.
The process of joining metal together by solder using a hot iron, which is like 600
100 degrees? What the fuck? No one told me this shit was gonna get dangerous. I'm gonna die. So I went to my parents' house and luckily my dad has all this equipment and was able to explain it to me. It's actually not that dangerous if you just don't touch the hot part, even though it's sometimes kind of tempting. That should not be tempting. How is that tempting? So I soldered all the buttons using different colored cables to remind me which end is for the LED and which is for the button, and I made some holes in the shoebox, put buttons in, and after that I discovered the single most annoying part about all of this is connecting the cables. I feel like my fingers are too big for this shit. But after a whole day, it worked. It fucking worked. At this point, I'm honestly feeling like some crazy engineer. I feel like I'm up there with Thomas Edison discovering electricity. Try not to think about the fact that I literally just put buttons in a shoebox. So now I want to make some actual gameplay. So one of the 4 buttons needs to randomly light up until you press it and then another lights up and that just continues. Should be simple enough. Except it isn't. Pressing the button is not being counted as one press. It just goes on, off, on, off. So in order to get this to work, I had to write some confusing ass code that checks, okay, it's in pressing state now, and now it's not. So that means I clicked once. Good thing to mention is, I barely know how to code either, so this is gonna be fun. I know a little bit about if statements and basic stuff, so I was doing fine for now. When that worked, I found out about button bouncing. At this point, I was like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? Apparently, pressing the button once can sometimes be read as pressing it multiple times, because the little connection inside bounces when pressing. Oh my god. To fix this, I have to check every half a second instead of infinitely, which is actually pretty simple. That was actually not that bad. So I went into hacker mode and started to code my game. This is by far the most complicated thing I've coded in my life, which is not really a high bar, but still. I ran into a ton of problems, managed to think of the most scuffed way to fix it imaginable, and it worked. My code looks horrible, but it works. I've never been more proud of anything in my life. I was playing it and enjoying it until I realized at some point it just stops. Why? Don't stop! So apparently this little Arduino has a byte limit. It cannot count further than the number 32,767. Which is just stupid! I can't even count further than that. Turning it into decimal numbers, making it count in way smaller steps, fixes the problem. Which I think is just weird. That's way harder to count. This thing is just stupid. While coding, I ran into the weirdest problems. For example, using the Arduino random function, for some reason always gave me the number 2. Fun fact, that's not random at all! I felt like this thing was pranking me. Turns out I had to give the random function a seed. I don't know why it's like this. A day went by of fixing little things and I asked someone to test it, and I found out you can just beat the game easily by constantly pressing all 4 buttons at once. This is why you playtest, people. After fixing that, I was having fun. I made a little UI, connected it to Unity, gave it a timer, people played it, they enjoyed it, got some feedback, and let's go! Done! Thanks for watching. Right. Okay, a few more steps to go. I realized to make this thing for 2 players, I needed a bigger Arduino. There are literally not enough inputs right now. There seem to be clever and advanced ways to go around this issue, but they were really complicated and advanced and just a lot of trouble, especially for me. And I was running out of time, so I was just like, fuck it, I'm buying a bigger and better Arduino. So I got the Arduino Mega, 40 bucks. I'm already this far. I just fucking whatever. So I made a 3D concept how I want this box thing to look and its size. And I realized I have no idea I'm gonna get these perfect holes inside wood. So then my teacher told me about laser cutting. It's this magical device that solves all my problems, and we have them at school. I'll get back to that later. First, I need to make the game. A wooden box with a screen is cool and all, but there's not really a point if there's no game. I have made simple things in Unity before where you couldn't do anything except for walk. So I've never actually made a proper game in Unity, so this is gonna be fun. The first challenge I took on was path following. So I want 2 cars to move around a track. Sounds pretty simple, except it isn't. This joke is getting old already. So I found a Code Monkey tutorial, I follow it, and I was left with a 2-point curve and nothing else. And then he just assumed I was ready to do everything else myself. I wasn't. Then I found out Sebastian Lake is the hero I didn't know I needed. He has a complete tutorial series on making a custom path creator editor, which is insane. He has a very relaxing voice. Someone makes this very advanced topic very relaxing. Okay, I take it back. Math? I thought I was done with that. My math teacher was right all along. For fuck's sake. So I followed this tutorial and I realized I was just copying his code, and even though I tried to explain it, this stuff is way too advanced for me. I also had the extra challenge because Sebastian's tutorial was for making 2D paths, and I want to make a 3D path, so a real challenge that was, but I managed somehow. I spent days and I was so proud that I finally made a path editor that kind of works. I can make paths now, except for the fact that my 3D solution is really broken and terrible to work with. I thought, well, it kind of works, so whatever. I think it has something to do with the mouse being screen space position instead of world space, but I don't have enough IQ for this. A lot of bugs could be fixed literally because I put the wrong number in certain places, or just because I spelled something wrong, or because I'm stupid. Just looking at my screen thinking, why does this not work? I did everything right, and then it turns out I didn't. So the next challenge is making the racer actually follow the path, which was the whole point of doing this in the first place. Well, I could not figure it out. Scratching my head for days, like Like, what the hell? I feel like I'm so close, yet so far. I literally got to the point I wanted to give up. I'm never gonna be able to make games. I suck. I'm hopeless. And then I found out about Sebastian Lake's free path creator tool. What the fuck? It has all the functionality I need. Path following, a 3D editor, even normal direction. What the fuck? It's free. It's free. He's literally the hero I didn't know I needed. I can even make banked corners and loopings now. I don't even need those probably, but damn. So, screw my own code. Let's go. So that means I spent days learning and following Sebastian's custom path editor tutorial. I actually did math stuff for nothing. No, I learned a lot. I feel like it helped me improve as a programmer in general. It was not a waste. So now it works. They follow a path. I totally didn't ruin several days of my life. Okay, next thing. I needed to think about how to make it fair. When there is an inside and outside path, obviously the inside path is way faster. So I did some brainstorming about race mechanics to make it more interesting, exciting, and whatever. I thought about elimination and overtaking. I thought having them switch tracks based on who's first would probably be fun. Having them both follow the same track would be the easiest and most fair, but then it would just clip through each other, which would be kinda lame. I feel like the easiest would be to have both lanes take exactly the same amount of time. So even though the outside lane seems longer, it still takes the same amount of time, therefore it's fair. But that's not spicy. Or I could make lane switches in the road or something. Maybe that could also cause them to funnily crash into each other. Also a fun idea, but also hard. Why are all the fun ideas the hardest to make? I also remember the game I used to play as a kid called Pixel Junk Racers, where the whole gameplay is switching lanes. But what I ended up choosing is the player who's in front always gets the outside lane. So the one who's last always has an advantage. This way it always stays intense. I like it when everyone has a chance to win. And there's not just a player far in front. That's what I like about Mario Kart sometimes. So there's no tutorial how to code this. So it's time. I need to code this on my own. I'm gonna use everything I've learned so far, all my training, and code something completely on my own. So I think I did it. Before testing if this works, a little technical breakdown. So for this idea, I made a visible rectangles throughout the track I call checkpoints. The game counts how many you hit, and the player who hit the most checkpoints is in front. Based on that, I changed the player's path to either the inside or outside. Let's test. Okay, it doesn't work. What turns out, just changing paths in general is a problem. Because the paths have different lengths, switching from one to the other barely happens where it should. It takes the distance you travel from one path and pastes it on the other, which means it's not the position you expect it to be. So, how do we solve this? I don't know. So, I'm not kidding. An entire week went by trying out different solutions I thought were 200 IQ, but were actually just stupid. Sometimes I felt like I was getting closer, but I never actually was. I tried having them switch when they collide with each other, which kind of worked, but was sometimes also kind of weird and buggy. At some point I realized when they are almost exactly the same position, they just infinitely keep switching, and instead of what I thought it would look like, a funny close race that's really exciting, it just triggers epilepsy. So maybe this whole idea is just stupid. I was about to give up until I came up with the idea. How about I just have them switch appearance so it just looks like they switched even though they didn't. Haha! This turned out to be the most stupid idea yet. Because this way all the player variables also get swapped and the inputs get swapped, and oh my god, this is just such a bad idea. There were a couple times I thought I fixed it. It kinda seemed to work, but very inconsistently. He's going on a new adventure. Where is he going? I spent an entire week on just this mechanic, and I gave up. None of my coding friends could help me out either. It would take too much time for them to help me out at this point, and at some point I had to accept my loss. I didn't want to give up, but the deadline was closing in, and I wasted an entire week on this. So, simpler version I made is it just checks each lap who's in front and switches lane based on that. It works fine when it's the start of the lap, because then the path distance is always 0, so it can't fuck it up. I feel like offsetting the player to the right or left from a single path would be the solution here, but I don't know how to do that. I wasted too much time already. Might come back to this and try this again later. So to test if this would work with the 4-button idea, I made a debug version using keys on the keyboard. This way I could more easily test it and tweak it without connecting all the buttons and lights. So since I already made it once for the buttons, creating this was doable. And now it's time to make boosts. This time I'm gonna ask for help right away.
Hello.
How do I add boost?
I'd say use an enumerator combined with a lerp.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so it kind of works now, except for the fact that I can infinitely boost. Wait, how do I do that?
You Then you should have your boost.
Okay, right. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now it just stops. Wait, can you explain it again?
I just explained it to you. Are you listening?
Okay, I did it. Time for a bar. Oh my god, Brackies is here to save me. Brackies makes me so happy. His smile, his voice, it's just this gentle voice telling me everything will be alright. So I spent a bit too much time making this bar work smoothly, but it works. Now only when the bar is filled you can boost, and if you click wrong, you have to try again. So now for art. I'm studying game art, so you could say this is my specialty. But I'm a first year still, so don't expect too much. I initially brainstormed about possibilities for themes and types of vehicles, because it could be cars racing, or spaceships, or frogs, or snails, or literally anything. I thought about what I'm interested in, what could be a nice learning opportunity, and I couldn't decide. So I started brainstorming about names for the game. And when I came up with Quick Click Spaceship, I decided to just go with spaceships. I like the name, so let's go. And spaceships are cool. Turns out great idea, because they fly and they don't have to perfectly stick to the road. No, I'm not lazy. I drew some thumbnails for racing spaceships. I tried to combine elements from Need for Speed Underground 2 type cars, these bad boys from the movie Cars, and actual spaceships. And I ended up coming up with these designs. Modeled them in Blender, did some substance painting, and there we go. Sketched some track IDs. Level design is not my strong suit. I modeled the first version of a track, and let's go. I discovered the track is a little too big. You barely see the spaceships now, and I just don't like this track. So I made a whole new map, this time with nice height differences and pillars underneath. Awesome! What the oh, the normals are flipped. We did it! Okay, let's get them to drive on the new track. Oh my god, you don't see the pillars. It's a top-down game. Of course you don't see the pillars. I'm stupid. Oh my god, of course you don't see the pillars. I made the pillars for nothing. I'm going crazy right now. How many more stupid things am I gonna do? I also made a start with the boost visual effects. I used a visual effects graph tutorial. Nice. Before finishing that, it was time to do some laser cutting. There are only specific times I can use one, so I have to get this right. I also bought the wood myself, so fucking it up means buying new material, which costs money. Sadly, I cannot craft my own. So my teacher told me how this works, and I made a vector file using the exact sizes in Illustrator, and I went to school. This machine really scared me. It looks like it can kill me. It has a big red danger button. Usually I don't want to get anywhere near a machine with a big red danger button, but it's pretty easy. You line it up and you kind of just press start, and there it goes. Whoa, this thing is amazing. All it lacks is a funny sound, so I'm gonna add that myself. And because just cutting out a square for the bottom part was boring, I let it engrave my name in it. And then I realized this is literally the bottom. Nobody's gonna see this. Done! It's perfect! Because I had so much fun and I had time left with the machine, I decided to cut out the logo as well, which didn't really go well at first, but the second try looked nice. And that's when I discovered I didn't think about how to take this shit home. Took it with me on the train, went biking with it while holding it in my left arm. I didn't film any of this, but at some point I dropped it and a guy just biked right over it, which is not nice. But somehow the material was okay, so phew, I guess. I made it home, and now I have to take it to my parents' house, which is like 3 hours away. So this time I spent more time thinking about logistics. And I got a big bag and a shoelace so I could carry this shit, and let's go. The wood had a better view during the train trip than I did. By the way, some context. During the week I'm in my student dorm, working on the game, going to school and whatever. And in the weekend I have some time to go to my parents' house to work on the case, because my student dorm doesn't have enough room or equipment. Could do it at school, but at home I can freely use my dad's equipment, so I'm kind of going back and forth. When testing the monitor, I discovered since this is an old monitor, the whole screen is really poorly visible from an angle, which is a real problem because I already cut the shit with the laser using this monitor's size. So now you have to look at the game exactly from above, so your neck hurts even more. I'm gonna get back to that. Time to check if the stuff I cut with the laser even fits, because if it doesn't, I'm definitely gonna cry. It fits! It fits! Well, everything except for the big buttons, because they apparently have little pins that I didn't make holes for, because I didn't know they were there. So, scuffed solution, I used my mom's lipstick to get the exact points where I needed to make holes, and then I made some extra holes, and now the big buttons fit. Next thing I'm doing is more soldering. I need to definitively solder all connections from the buttons to the right resistors to the Arduino. So I made the schematic how this is going to look. Oh my god. I spent 2 whole days soldering this. At some point I felt more comfortable with the 600-degree device, and I wasn't as scared of it killing me anymore. So after connecting the wrong cables 4 times and almost soldering 2 buttons stuck to each other, I did it. Thought of a really scuffed solution to fit all the cables inside the Arduino without having to solder directly on it, which is double cables. Really hard to get this shit in. Now the most nerve-wracking thing is testing if all the soldering I did worked, and there's There's light. It's working. It's working. Oh my god. I individually checked all the lights and buttons and they worked. It works. So my dad told me there are a lot of things I could have done way easier, like soldering all the ground cables to each other right away, or soldering two resistors without using the orange plate thing at all, or, well, I had no idea what I was doing anyway, so whatever. Now it's time to saw and cut some wood. So my dad explained this equipment to me and I started. I was not doing well. Luckily my dad walked in once in a while and saw how hopeless I was and helped me out a ton. Shout out Dad. So after a lot of measuring, noise, screws and crying, I made a box with a screen inside and buttons. I did it. I did it. How is this so hard? So cool and all, but I still have the problem that the screen is poorly visible from an angle. Funnily enough, looking at it upside down for some reason is way brighter than looking at it the normal way. So what the fuck? After some testing, I discovered a really bright daylight level would be kind of okay. The thing is, I really wanted to make a nighttime city. So you have nighttime spaceship racing, because that's fucking awesome. But I decided to make a daylight alien planet level instead, so it would be better visible. Later, I decided to still do the nighttime city, but just make it very bright. I'll get back to that later. First, now it's time to actually make these buttons control the game I made earlier. So I started coding, and for some reason I noticed just the big blue button is not working. Just that big blue button. Everything is screwed in. Did a cable go loose or something? Why is it not working? So I screwed the whole thing apart again and saw everything was still properly attached. So what the fuck? After a bit of research, I discovered on the Arduino Mega, pin 50 and 51 are special exception inputs. I have no idea what SPI and MOSI means. In my case, it doesn't work. So I changed the pin and now the blue button works, which is really weird, and I stumbled upon this by accident and I cannot believe this. If I hadn't found this picture, I would have no idea why this button wasn't working. I was literally about to give up and jump out of a window. So anyway, new pin works. Let's go. Time to screw it back together. And I accidentally filmed 2 hours of nothing. What? Okay, back to coding. So I made a cool idle pattern, and this time I decided to make a mode system. I made several different functions for each mode. An idle mode, a menu mode, a game mode. The game mode also has several different states why the buttons behave differently. This way I can utilize different ways of using the buttons easily throughout the game. I thought of this myself. This might be the smartest thing I have done yet. Not really a high bar, but still. While coding, I noticed doing code for every single button was getting extremely annoying and repetitive, and with 10 buttons also hard to manage. Time to ask my friend Exy again for help. Hey.
I've explained it 2 times to you now. I'm not gonna explain it again.
A different question, I promise. So Exy helped me clean up the code with arrays and for loops, and now my code is cleaner and better. Time to connect it to Unity. Luckily I know how to do this after a lot of struggling with this before, and it works. I even have a simple car select now. I have learned so much about coding these past weeks that making a simple car select has become easy and fun now. Time to take this thing to my student dorm. Still back for the bag from earlier, so biking with it is not an option. And this thing is so important for me right now. I don't like risking bringing this with me on the train for 3 hours, bumping into shit and maybe breaking something. So I'm gonna borrow my dad's car. I'm gonna drive all the way to my student dorm, all the way back to give my dad his car back, and then go with the train all the way back to my student dorm. Let's go! Okay, I did it. It's here. I made it. Wait, Exy is calling.
Wait. I have a suggestion.
What is it?
Make it so that there's fire every time you boost.
Yeah, I was doing that with the visual effects graph. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like actually in real life, that there's like fire coming out of the machine.
Wait, what?
Never mind.
Okay, continuing coding. So I made it so the game continues when both players have selected a car. I'm struggling a bit with communicating from Unity back to the Arduino, but I made a simple system where the Arduino can read characters Unity sends to it, and it works, I guess. I'm working with an array of button checks right now, and it's so much more advanced than when I started with this, and I don't know how I got here. I feel like I gained IQ during this project. A really annoying bug I was dealing with was that sometimes it told me I pushed the wrong button, even though I didn't. I spent half a day crying about this bug until I discovered changing the debounce time fixed it. Cool. I made boost work too. Now to continue with boost visual effects, I finished the fire visual effects, tweaked it till I liked it, and I connected it to the spaceships. Okay, that looks weird. What the fuck? Okay, fixed it. So time to make some environment art. This is kind of my specialty, but I have 2 days left and I haven't even started with sound. So normally I would create mood boards, collect inspiration, make some thumbnails, concept art, create a coherent mood and style, and really go all out making something cool. But I spent so much time coding, I don't have time for that right now. But I do have a couple of Pinterest boards full of like cyberpunk nighttime shit. So I have something. I decided to go with a nighttime city anyway, even though the screen has a contrast problem looking at it from an angle, like I said earlier. But I tested it, and just making a really bright nighttime city seems to work pretty okay. I'm just gonna add street lights and make the road really bright. So I decided to create some very simple building assets in Blender with array modifiers, and I placed them around the scene. And because of time, I went with a simple stylized style. I freestyled without prior concept art or anything. Made some shit, realized only having the same shape building looks kind of boring, so I made random shaped things, this circular thing, some extra roads to make it feel more like a city. I would have loved to make little rooftop gardens, smoke coming out of pipes, little cars driving over the road. A friend suggested making police chases and Easter egg on the side, but I don't have time for all that. I also noticed this game looks pretty cool in isometric mode. Maybe I'll do all of the things I said earlier in a PC release later. I don't know. I made a simple shader that changes the window lighting from the buildings, and it looks really cool. And I think it's done. Didn't bother doing any texturing, the shader's good enough. So after speedrunning the environment art, it's time to finish the UI and do sound. I have exactly 1 day left. Doing UI for this game is pretty funny because half of it needs to be upside down. Right now the car select is a screen with just plain white text, so that needs some work. I'll get to that later. So first, the game itself. The bar looks kind of boring, and I want it to be on fire because it's a boost bar. So I put my fire visual effects in front of a green screen I made in Unity. Literally just an unlit green material on a plane. I recorded that and put that on the bar with After Effects. This is the most scuffed way to do this, but I wanted to use the same fire visual effects from the game, and I didn't know how else to do it. And it totally looks good, so whatever. Getting the UI animation to work in Unity wasn't as easy as I thought, but some googling helped me out. Wrote some code just to play this UI animation. Fun fact, for this I had to drag and drop every single frame into the Unity editor for all 50 frames until I found a tutorial that just does this. It's that simple. It's that simple. This time I wasn't crying, I just stopped feeling things at this point. So I quickly added some camera shake code because the boost of course needs camera shake. Let's make the car select UI. Learn how to do split screen. I had 2 cameras move from one ship to the other, and it looks kind of good. I'm really happy with this result. Before starting this, I had no idea I was capable of doing any of this, and I'm thrilled. Now I have to fix that the spaceship you choose actually becomes the spaceship you play in game. And after all the coding I've done, I'm smart enough to do this myself. And now an end. The game's cool and all, but it never ends. So I made an end screen using some cumbersome logic to get the second and first place to show up. It took some time till it actually showed the right results, but it works now. I also made a start sequence, by the way, so it doesn't just start right away. And to make the lane switching less ugly, because I don't have time to make visual effects for that, I made this start thing that shows up at the beginning, and the spaceship just switched underneath. This is a scuffed fix, but I don't have much time left, okay? Spent a lot of time on all that, and now it's time for sound. It's 10 PM, and I'm now just starting with sound. Oh my god. I took a sound from Epidemic Sound, of course not sponsored. Please sponsor me. I cut the intro, used some sounds, made an intro sequence, just using sound. This way I didn't have to bother making a visual intro sequence, so let's go. I made the other game sounds by just layering sounds I found online. My favorite sound is the boost sound. I layered a funky bass with some spacey sounds that pitch up over time. And then I found a bling sound that I changed the pitch of every time you click correctly, which is really satisfying. And this is actually a pretty easy thing to do with a couple of lines of code in Unity. And I made some UI sounds and did some little extra bug fixing, and it's done. It's done. I can't believe it's done. Oh my god. It was 3 AM and I had to present it at school the next morning. So great. Taking it to school was really hard. Since I didn't have my dad's car here, I had to walk with it, and it's heavy. I wasn't able to bike, so I walked for half an hour with that thing, and I brought it to school. Set it up, people started playing it. There were a lot of people and I couldn't ask everyone if they were okay with me filming them. So I ended up only filming me and Axie playing it. You can't really see the game itself well in this shot. I'm sorry. I definitely want to do more projects like this in the future, and then I will take filming filming it properly more seriously. I decided pretty late during this project I wanted to film it, so for now this is all I have. I also have shots of me playing it against myself, so here's a compilation of all that. People were really excited. They enjoyed the game, they were really competitive. Some people played it really seriously and just wanted to win, and others were casually having fun, and it was great. Something almost everyone said though, because you're completely focused on the buttons that light up. You never actually look at the game. How did I not notice that? That's stupid. Which is a real shame. I spent all this time making this game look good, and people don't even look at it. Also, people said it ruins the experience because you don't know if you're winning or not if you're not looking at the screen. Having the lights show up on the screen would have fixed that problem. I was so busy finishing the whole thing that I didn't do enough playtesting. Also, game design is my strong point anyway, so I'll need to study that more. People noticed I forgot to make the end screen UI also work upside down. Whoops. I got a lot of other feedback, but overall I'm really happy. This is the first ever proper game I made. First time ever using Arduino. There are so many things I did for the first time this project. I learned so much, and I'm really excited to create cooler things in the future. Never before have I made something that people could actually play, enjoy. It was a crazy feeling, and thanks so much for watching. This is my first time making this kind of video, taking you to the process of making something, and I hope you like it. I still have to fuck around with this type of content more to get better at it. It was actually like a month in or something, I decided, oh, this could be a fun video. I wasn't really filming everything with like a YouTube video in mind, so I feel like next project I can improve on that. But yeah, some personal talk. Where the fuck have I been? I haven't uploaded for a year. Like last video I made like a joke, oh, I didn't upload for a month. That can't even make that joke anymore. A year is just too long. And out of nowhere I show up with this video, which is completely different from everything else I've done. Well, a lot changed in my life. I moved to the student dorm, started going to art school to pursue game art. I mentioned in other videos I have a hard time combining studying and YouTube. I really put all my time this year into learning 3D and game art and Unity and all that stuff. And it really paid off. I learned so much, but I never stopped wanting to make YouTube videos. But making videos about anime and games next to school is impossible when I don't even have like time to watch anime in the first place. So I gave it some thought, and making videos about the shit I do at school is just actually the logical step for me. I really rediscovered my passion this year. I've wanted to make my own games since I was like 6. I've always wanted to, and finally being able to do this is amazing. And I have so many ideas, and I would love to share that journey. The school year just ended, so I'm about to become a second year, but that's really why. I fully expect after being an anime YouTuber and not uploading for a year, this video is not gonna go well, but I'm just gonna go with it. Before going to the art school I'm in right now, anime and games were the main things on my mind. I wanted to make games, but I didn't think I could actually do it. And I always make videos about what's on my mind, which was mainly anime back then. But this year, all that's been on my mind is making games. And I feel like my whole life came full circle. Now I rediscovered my passion for making games, and I'm actually chasing this dream. Especially when I realized I can make videos about making games. I feel like my life came full circle. Combining all those years on YouTube with my lifelong dream of making games, I really want to try this. I'm still very short on time, so I'm definitely not gonna upload much. But I feel like that fits better with this type of content. Like, obviously I'm not gonna make a game every week. This project took months, but I'll see where it goes. I have plenty of crazy game ideas planned, so stay tuned. I also might make videos about like game art or more specific topics if I feel like. So stick around if you're interested in that. Thank you for 7,000 subscribers. What the f? Last video I was thanking you for 1,000. How are you all still subscribing after a year without uploads? Like, I'm gonna be here every now and then, so hit the bell. Is that still a thing? Well, this video has been long enough. Time to wrap it up. Might make a PC version of this game, make a couple levels and release it if I have the time, but we'll see. I'll make a video about that too then. But thanks for watching. When I started this, I was just like, I'm just gonna make an arcade racing game. How hard can it be? Really hard.